Welcome to Creativity, the podcast where art and engineering collide. My name is Max Maker, and this is my co-host, Jeremy S. Cook.
Hey guys, today we've got a guy, Matt, at DIY Perks, who's, makes all kinds of stuff that perks your life up by making it yourself, I guess. Is that a
yes,
a
that's
correct
a perfect intro. Yep.
Oh, thank you very much. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt?
I run a YouTube channel called DIY Perks, and it's fairly popular in its own little circle. And I make things technology-based, like things with LEDs, sometimes some sound projects with speakers, and quite a few computer projects as well. And
mushrooms.
Some mushroom lights. That was fun. That's a classic.
That was very unique. You know, he's got 2 million subscribers. He's really understating his popularity there.
Well, I'm British, so.
Yeah, no, that's very, very good. Maybe Max can get to that level at some point. So,
Oh, but maybe you as well. There's
maybe
plenty of room for you to overtake me on the way to 2 million. But the topic of this week, we thought we'd talk about tools, not just physical tools, but tools that help you with your creativity. And that also encompasses software, of course, and whatever we actually use to make our workflow better and help us do what we're doing, which is making videos, writing articles, and for me, making drawer slides and selling them.
Nice. Well, why don't you go first then, Max? What's your favorite tool?
Oh, favorite tools. I love most of my tools whenever I use them and the tool is good. The tool really does what it's supposed to do. Then I'm really satisfied by that. But I've got some that stand out. One is definitely a manual forklift that I bought. It's like a forklift. You just pump it up yourself. There's no motor or anything like that. And it drives around, but you have to pull it, of course, manually. And that's super helpful because sometimes I get trucks delivering some parts. It's mostly sheet metal on pallets. And the truck comes from Eastern Europe sometimes, and they don't bring a pallet truck with them or a lifting platform to actually get up to the truck, which is very standard in Germany. You wouldn't encounter that problem in Germany. But some don't have it. And this just lifts it up to 1.6 meters. It's about chest height. It really helped me out a lot. And also in the workshop, it's great because it can lift 1,000 kilograms. So if I have some heavy objects like furniture or I'm building something, there's always something there to lift things up with or actually just provide a little table. So I really love that.
That's got to be really nice. I mean, I just remember moving my milling machine from my old house to this house and the movers took care of it, but it was like, okay, Jeremy, can you lift this? I'm like, you know what? I don't want my leg getting broken. And it was just like,
break your own legs.
It's always I don't know. It would be nice to have something that was that powerful, just ready to go at a moment's notice.
And I thought about using an engine crane, getting one of them, but this is so much more versatile because you can move pallets around with it, which is what you can't do with an engine crane. And you can also put a chain on it and lift something else up. So
does it work by
very good investment?
By pneumatics then?
Yes, pneumatics, hydraulics. I think it's hydraulics.
Right.
So let me get this straight though. Is it you're actually manually pumping it up and letting it down, correct?
Oh, but
that's
pumping
great.
it up is not very hard.
But
you can pump something up in a few seconds to a big height.
Nice. But I guess for something that you're going to use, I imagine you don't use it every day, probably every week or month or whatever. If you're using it once in a while, not having to pay for I don't know what a forklift costs, but let's just say,
well, that's
compared to that, I'm sure it was very
now
cheap.
That I noticed that I use it so often, I would like the powered version, and that's like 3 times the price. So it's not too bad. It's about $3,000. So maybe if I have a really good month, I'm going to sell this one and buy the powered one because it's a lot of mass to move around, and once it gets going, it's easy to steer and to drive. But to accelerate it, you really need to pull a lot of it.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. So what about you, Matt? What's your favorite tool?
I think it's quite tricky because I don't know. Like I have tools that I find the most useful, and then there's tools I really like because they do a good job. So the tool I would say that's my favorite in the most used category is just a drill, just a standard drill, because it allows so many things you can do with a drill. But really, my current favorite tool is I've got a DeWalt Jigsaw, and yeah, just I've been used to manually cutting wood like with coping saws and stuff to get the shapes. Because sometimes I try and make things that are with minimal tools, you see, so that people can, if they want to, mimic things at home. So I've intentionally tried to keep the tool set really basic, but I've succumbed to using a jigsaw, and it's like so good.
Is it battery powered?
Yeah, it's a cordless one. Yeah. I've sort of bought into the DeWalt battery system. So I bought one battery because the batteries are actually pretty expensive, and then I've just got 3 tools within that range so that they can all use that single battery, and it's working really well. So
it's really good. Like I totally also jumped onto the cordless tools. And whenever I'm getting something new now, I'm getting cordless because they're almost as good. Obviously, if you need production runs, like if you use your angle grinder for hours on end, then I would use a corded one. But for making random projects, cordless is so much better.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I like the ability just to take it either into the studio or the workshop, or it's nice to have that maneuverability. Like I'm often sometimes in quite awkward positions as well. Like when so I've got the cordless sander, you see, so it's like a disc sander, and if I was with a wire, it would get in the way and stuff. So yeah, I like that at the moment.
And the wires are always on the floor, and then they get dirty.
Yeah. Or just
and you've got quite a small studio, right?
I did have, but I'm renting an attic at the moment, so I've actually gotten a bit of an upgrade. So I'm having to stay here though during quarantine. So, but yeah, it's about twice the size as my old studio. So a huge upgrade, really. But it was such a tiny room before. It was like 2.5 by 3 meters, and that was my workshop and studio and everything, with storeroom as well. So,
and now?
Now I think it's 3 meters by about 5.
Oh, so a standard garage, basically.
Yeah, basically. Slightly
maybe
wider
even smaller
by UK. It's bigger than a UK garage. Like our garages over here, they can barely fit cars in. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bigger than a garage. Well, UK garage anyway. So
it's been nice. You get so much stuff done in such a small space. I couldn't work. I don't think I could work. Well, I had just a garage as well when I
could never go back to it. It's one of those things that when you are, it's all you know. You can do it. Like you can find ways of doing it. You tend to complain less. Like internally, actually, I was complaining quite a lot, like in my head. But yeah, when I couldn't go backwards to that. But now I've got this space, I realize how awkward it was actually working in there. Like I built a desk in there, so it was I think the desk width is 2.8 meters by 80 centimeters, and it was for a computer case. You see, it was like a computer desk, and
oh yeah, of course,
yeah, just having that in the middle of the room. There was only just enough room to walk around it and stuff.
Yeah.
And so actually making it, I would not want to go back to it, but never mind.
What I found the most annoying about working in the garage, obviously the garage was full of tools. So whenever the weather was good, I would be outside in front of the garage on the driveway.
Nice. Yeah.
And yeah, that is nice, but the weather is so annoying. Either you have sun in your eyes, or suddenly you're in the shade and you can't see anything anymore.
Oh, right.
Or there's wind and you try to do something delicate, and then the wind is blowing leaves into your fresh paint and stuff like that, and rain, and
yeah,
it's just so annoying to have to work with the weather.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, I like the opportunity to work outside sometimes, but it's always by choice, rather
Yeah.
than necessity exactly. So actually, no, it was always by necessity because I say if I needed to cut through some wood, I'd have to go outside to do it. But I would choose the time that I did that. So I would always choose a nice day. And yeah, it was like doing two things at once. So being outside in the sun and working at the same time. So you do two things at once. So that suited me.
And Jeremy, you always work in the sun, right?
I usually work in my garage when it's not like sweltering. So just about now, mid-May, I can just tell it my garage is getting to the point where I can't be in there after, in the late afternoon. I'm thinking like May through September is kind of like a garage no-go time. May have to get an air conditioner like those guys at Physics Anonymous or Pat
Yeah,
Regan even.
yeah.
I think we discussed this. It just seems like such a big luxury, but yeah, at the same time, Max, I'm sure you and Matt, I'm sure you both have heaters in your garage. So I guess
I
it's
don't.
No,
oh, okay, maybe you don't.
well, I've got a heater actually for winter, but no, I can definitely imagine it being a good idea to have an air conditioner because you can't think or at least I can't, when it's too hot. Like you need to be able to be in a comfortable environment really to work
Yeah.
properly. So yeah, it seems like a good
I
idea.
get really agitated when I have too many layers on and I start to sweat. I don't know what it is, but when I notice I've got too much layers on, I get really agitated, and then I have to take a layer off, and then I can cool down again mentally.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you got all the. Oh, I was gonna say maybe that's why you get all the Florida man stuff. We get all these crazy ideas because we get too hot, and shooting fireworks in the wrong place or something.
Side note, I think surprisingly, the human brain uses quite a few like I know it's not watts, but the equivalent of quite a lot of watts. You wouldn't think it's like how much is it? Is it 100 watts? Like when chess players are in tournaments, for example, they use more or the same calories as sportsmen, sprinters and stuff. And if you think about it, that's like all that heat in your brain. That's it will heat things up, and your body has to cool that. So I think it's important to keep a good temperature.
Well, Matt, maybe one of your new projects, what you could do, you could make like a
water cooling your brain.
Exactly, like a hat with a heat.
That sounds like a Linus Tech Tips video.
Maybe you could see that by looking at exam results that you do in winter and summer, that the winter results might be better.
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah,
my workshop is always between 12 degrees in winter, and then in summer, when the summer is really hot, it goes up to 20 degrees. So room temperature is the maximum. So it's always nice to work in there.
Yeah. I've just a little fact checking on myself. It's 20 watts. 20 watts, not 100 watts. So quite a big difference.
So that's 2 really bright LED lights.
Yes. Yeah. It's still a decent amount of energy, though. That.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So it's good.
It's a chemical battery. So Jeremy, what's your favorite tool?
So I got to say, just listening to you guys talk about your different tool selections. I think I'm on board with Matt as far as the DeWalt tools. I've got just a wall of, several of them, but they're all wired. Basically, when I moved into this house, I had them wire in a couple extra outlets so I could reach it wherever I was in my garage, at least in the half that I use for my workshop stuff. I can't say that having them wireless wouldn't be nice sometimes, but I don't know. It's just nice to be able to plug it in, know that you're going to get power, and not have to even worry about that.
At least you don't have to worry about charging the batteries and stuff and having some downtime on that.
Yeah. And I had a wireless drill for a while from a tool maker we won't name, but ended up burning out after several uses, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go with a wired DeWalt drill for this, and that's worked.
You shouldn't have bought Ryobi.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying what brand it was, but Yeah. So, but yeah, those are some of my favorite tools as far as just, I don't know, good quality and stuff. And then I guess as far as what I use, it's just, my 3D printer with Octoprint. I can just draw something up on my computer and just have it spit it out is just amazing. I mean,
That is amazing.
I've messed with it and messed with it to the point where I can do that. So, I don't know what you guys' experiences have been, but once it's
Well, the
set
good
up,
thing
it's
is
great.
you don't have to do any measuring, right? You can print whatever you like, and you know it will come out with the perfect dimensions if
It,
it
it
prints
is
okay.
it is amazing because you look up, you think, well, I need to find the dimensions for this. Maybe it'll come out, maybe not. But I was making a mount for a Raspberry Pi a while ago, and okay, I'm like, okay, I can just look up the actual dimensions for the board, put it in my CAD program, and it's going to be spot on. It's just an amazing concept, as you
Mm.
were kind of alluding to, just being able
Mm.
to know that it's going to be there whether you like it or not, really.
Yeah, I just noticed that recently when I bought a new 3D printer because my old one always had warping issues. It was one of the first ones that came out in 2011. And with the warping, you can never be sure if the dimensions are right and if the corners are even 90 degrees. But now it comes out perfectly with the heated bed. So I utilize it more and more. Whenever I print something that's a little bit complicated, I just do it on CAD because I can sit on my desk. I don't burn many calories. And
All that brain activity, though.
yeah. And even for small things, you need a drill and you need a chamfering bit and all these kind of small tools that you need. And they all make dust in the 3D printer. It just does its thing and it comes out with the right sizes.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you've got a really great setup for your enclosure. Did you do a video on that, or is that just something you did?
I'm going to do a video. Yeah, I shot everything and making the enclosure, but that's going to be probably in my next video, how I built that from plywood.
Okay.
Matt, you said you have a 3D printer, right?
Yeah, it's an ANET A8.
Ah, yeah.
So nothing special, but it does what I need for 3D printing because I'm not sort of at the moment that big on CAD design and stuff. I mean, I've only just started using Fusion, as you know, Max, because you've obviously given me a quick one-on-one lesson on that. So yeah, I was using SketchUp before, but it sort of did what I needed, which was to make like vague shapes, like a little bracket to hold something in place, or really basic stuff. And the ANET did a reasonable job at that. Like my print quality is definitely not great, but it works. So I've just sort of left it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like my printer, I've got it set up well enough that it does what I need it to, but at the same time, I'm not going to make
Hmm.
a model of the Hulk or something and show it in a
Yeah.
show if they have such things. It's
Yeah. Because I mean, I actually thought that I was really not that interested in 3D printing for quite a while. Like even when I had that 3D printer, I didn't use it that much. But it was only like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago that I realized how useful it can be for little components. Like what you were saying, Max, like you don't have to use some little chisels and things to make a mount out of wood. You can just design it and print it. And it saves so much time. It's
Yeah.
they're literally revolutionary for like homebrew in your house manufacturing, like small scale. It's so cool.
yeah,
And
I
something
agree
interesting I
entirely.
heard about them that Stratasys owns so many of the patents for these 3D printers, and they keep running out in the next decade, basically. And one of them, for example, is that the motors have to be inside of the enclosure. So if you build a 3D printer, and you cannot put the motors on the outside because then you would you would use the patent of Stratasys. So that's why all of the manufacturers have the problem of putting the heat source, which are the motors, into the enclosure.
Hmm.
So they will only improve over time.
Right. So when do those
And really, the
expire?
patents held them back. I think the one with the enclosure in 22, I think.
Right. So quite near at hand then. So are
Yeah,
we going to see some quite big changes then in terms of mainstream printer design?
I think more enclosed printers.
Right.
but with the motors outside. And another patent that is running out is the SawStop patent. I think
Max,
in
I was going to
20 or
mention that
21.
2020. I've been looking forward to this for a while. The words
We're
were on the
getting new
tip of my
bandsaws.
tongue. Maybe Bosch will
Yeah,
sell their
table saws.
maybe Bosch will sell their tools here now, because they had them here for like a tiny bit. They're a SawStop equivalent, but not
And they
Bosch.
were
Yeah,
stopped.
Bosch. What's that?
Yeah, Bosch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were stopped by some legal reasons.
Oh yeah. So I don't know if I'll get one, because my local maker space, shout out Tape Hackerspace, they have one there that's very nice. And I really need to take up one bay of my garage with the one? I mean, maybe not, but according to you, Max, they're quite the useful tools if you have one.
A table saw, yeah, I use it a lot, but the chop saw I use much more than miter saw because it's more convenient somehow. I guess it's easier to handle, and most of the time I work with long extrusions, so or long bar
Right.
stock, so chopping things off is easier on the chop saw. But as soon as I can get like a job site table saw from some other manufacturer than SawStop for a reasonable price, I will buy it because I don't want to lose a finger.
I mean, SawStop, they make a good product. It's just a few things. It's just they're very expensive, and it seems like they've been kind of unneedlessly litigious, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they tried to pursue Congress to make it a law that all these saws that manufacturing businesses use are basically SawStop saws because they were the only ones with a patent.
Can Bosch sell was Bosch selling their whatever dropout saws in Germany, or were they not?
No, they weren't. They only announced it, and then they never came, and then suddenly was quiet.
Well, anyway, that's a whole different sidetrack, but something that's been on both of our minds, I guess. Are you familiar
maybe
with
Matt
these?
can get a version with a jigsaw.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, but I guess that being said, we were going to ask, when do you guys buy your tools? Before you have a project that you want to do, or do you just buy them when you see them, they look cool, or what do you guys? What's your guys' opinion on that?
Max answer this one first.
Okay.
Most of the time I do something with minimal tools, and then while I'm doing them, I figure out, I need a better tool for this. This isn't working. And then I get the tool, and it lays around in my workshop for a year before I need it again. Like that happened with the staple gun, like a pin nailer, pressured air pin nailer. I thought like, that would be useful now. So I ordered one, and it arrived after I was done, of course. Then 2 years later, I used it for the first time.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's I tend to buy them as I need them. So it's slightly in advance. So if I know I'm going to do a project that would benefit a lot from a particular tool, I'll just order it so it arrives in plenty of time. So it's a bit of both, really. But yeah, I'm doing it gradually because I don't really have that much experience with various tools and what's the perfect tool for the job and things. And it's just a case of, for me, actually gradually learning what's actually out there. I'm talking about more niche things like, say, a pipe bender, I mean, it's not that niche, obviously, but like you wouldn't necessarily know it exists unless you'd seen a video, used in a video or something. So,
and we don't have colleagues that can give us tips,
Yes,
at least not in the workshop.
Yeah.
If you have 10 experienced craftsmen in your workshop, one of them will know a solution for a problem. Say like, my cousin has this kind of tool that would be perfect for this.
Yeah. It's sort of quite a downside of working solo, really. But at the same time, I mean, there are plenty of resources through the internet. It sometimes just takes a minute to find them, but it's sometimes it's hard to find things on the internet. I mean, have you noticed how, like, Google seems to be more about selling you something now than giving you information like it used to be? I don't know.
Very true. We used to have these small privately run websites that were really bad, and somebody was just sharing knowledge. like how to build an RC
Yes.
plane. But if you Google
They were
RC plane
brilliant.
now, you will only find places that sell them or sell parts.
It's really hard to find those niche sections of knowledge now.
But that's what YouTube is good for, or the subreddits on Reddit, like the Arduino versus Evil subreddit. Very knowledgeable people there from all kinds of trades. I think it's /Skookum,
Right.
and the metal working. Yeah, it's like his language, and the metalworking subreddit, the woodworking subreddit,
Yeah. Oh, I have to look them up,
welding subreddit, and they're generally very helpful people there.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Have you ever found that, say, you've been doing something a certain way and you include it in a video, and then you get a comment from someone, and you realize, wow, that makes so much sense to do it like, they give you an idea of something that you might not have ever thought of.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm working on something now. I've got a video I'm working on, and in my mind, I'm pretty sure there's a better way to do what I'm doing. So I'm just going to release it and see what they say in the comments. So,
yes. It's great though, isn't it? It's like having a resource of a sort of like a pool of people who can comment on things. And sometimes it's so helpful.
It is nice. We've had this conversation before about, basically people will make comments on your website, videos. I'm sure, all of us get good and bad comments, but I feel like you just have to know whether is this guy trolling you or is he saying your project's bad because of X, Y, Z. You either need to figure out if this guy's just or woman is just a hateful person or well, they've got a point here. I could be doing it better. Maybe they didn't say it nicely, but it's
there's almost always there's a nugget of truth in what most people say, and it's very. I mean, for me, it's very seldom that the person is intentionally just being a troll with no valid point. But sometimes, like you say, they word it really badly, and sometimes it's if you filter through the personal slight, you can actually find a nugget of really helpful information, and you can turn it into almost like a positive thing. So I find it actually quite helpful sometimes when people say, "Oh, your soldering iron's all oxidized and stuff." Like I got
How do you know if that's the case?
I know. I got.
I had one of them, and none of the solder would stick. I thought, what's going on here?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, honestly, my soldering is still not great. Like for years, like my subscribers have constantly reminded me, like, Matt, do a better job on your soldering. But it works. That's the thing. It does the job. But it's like that's the one thing I would say that.
I started welding now. I bought a welder and all the welding equipment, and it's a TIG welder. So it's like you produce an arc. And to me, TIG welding aluminium feels exactly like welding.
Wow.
And I don't see a big difference because the arc heats up the area that I pointed at, just like a soldering iron, and then you dip some filler wire into it.
Right.
So
and that's supposed to be very hard.
Yeah, everybody says it's hard, but I had like 3 sessions and I welded something now, and it looks good and it works, but it doesn't look perfect. Not like on bicycles the welds are. But,
yeah. You should do a video on that. That sounds interesting.
It's difficult to shoot.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, some things are. What's the most difficult thing that you two have had to shoot on a video? Like, what's the most like I know, Jeremy, you've been doing like a laser pointer for the GoPro or something on the top of your aim things.
Yeah, that was it's always very hard to video anything that has a huge light source. I mean, that's you mess with the settings, but eventually it's like you got the LED that's just blowing everything out, and then you got the rest of the area that's not nearly as bright. So I don't know. Maybe you do some really beautiful work, Matt. What's your technique on that kind of thing?
Well, I was into cameras.
We're on tools. What kind of cameras do you use? I guess that's a good question.
Well, I'm kind of a camera guy. I like my cameras, and it's quite good, really. That I mean, I grew up always interested in cameras, And then my job now includes filming with them every day. So I'm quite a camera geek. But what I like using, mirrorless cameras. And I currently use a Nikon Z6, which it's full frame. So it's got a large sensor on it. And
nice.
that means you can get a nice defocused background. But that's not actually my primary reason for buying it, because I find crop sensor cameras like the GH4 and GH5, that kind of line, they are perfect for doing close-up, more DIY work, because you don't want too much blur. So they work well. But the problem with those is that they don't have very good autofocus. So I've recently switched to the Z6, which means it's got face tracking. So I can just set the camera rolling and just go in front of the camera and do some presentation, for example. And
that's really good.
It just literally locks on and it's perfect. It's a nice balance of things. And then it records into an external, it's like an external screen, but it's also a recorder. So it goes through an HDMI connection into, and it's an Atomos Ninja 5, which is, it records in ProRes, which when it's on the computer is super snappy to edit with. Like you don't need a super high-end PC to actually edit for
I never knew that.
4K files. Like it makes them so much easier to work with. They're big, but it's like way easier to edit. So that's my camera
I
setup.
never knew
it's all on
that's
a
what
gimbal
ProRes is
as well.
for.
Yeah, no, it's a great format because it's so lightly compressed. So the file sizes are huge, but if you delete everything afterwards, hard drives are quite cheap these days. So yeah.
Right.
You can tell I'm enthusiastic about cameras.
No, that's great. I feel like it's, with what I do, I feel like cameras are kind of like, it's a skill I've had to, I wouldn't say master, but maybe get to an early journeyman level with it. So
it is quite a steep learning curve though, because for me it's lighting has been hard. Like I always try really to make it look visually
artistic,
clean. Yeah, because I've taken a lot of inspiration from Marquez Brownlee, you see, who does the MKBHD tech channel, and he shoots with like red cameras and like really high-end gear, and the shots are so clean and sharp, and I always try and think I use him as the benchmark really. So it's like it's cool because YouTube's sort of like the space where you can bounce off each other and see what each other is doing, and just you're always improving, and it's a good space to be really for learning things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I'm looking at his thumbnails and they're so crisp.
Yes. Yeah.
It's mostly iPhones on there.
Yeah, he's one of the biggest tech YouTubers.
Wow.
But
Nice.
Yeah, his videos are so clean and things. So I feel
Nice.
like it's funny how YouTube is sort of segmented, you see. So in the tech space, they tend to use really good cameras and really light the shots and do it in a much more controlled and cinematic way, because that's really say if they're reviewing a computer mouse, for example, like a gaming mouse, they'll do some really nice B-roll for it, make sure it's lit properly and things, because the item's already been made. Like this isn't a dig at tech YouTubers, because they are able to say take more time on the B-roll, whereas I found it sometimes a bit of a drag. Like as makers, we have to actually make the thing.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
a good observation.
Build a video around it, and it's like if you're reviewing tech, at least someone's already made it for you. So I always find that it takes a long. That's why it takes me so long to do videos. You see, 1 a month ish.
Well, I'm sure those tech YouTubers are offended that you said their video looks so crisp and clean. It's quite the
yeah. It's sort of I was saying it's like there's different segments in YouTube. So in the tech world, my channel, I wouldn't say it's particularly brilliantly shot. It's as well as I can manage with what I've got.
I'd say it's quite good.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like in the from the maker point of view, it's different, almost like categories, because there's so much focus on the camera gear and everything on the tech side, and then in the makerspace, it's way more about the making. So I get lots of compliments from people in the on the maker side, and then very few on the tech side. So it's just an interesting how YouTube's so vast that you can have different groups, and it's brilliant. Yeah.
When I think about the quality, I always remember Casey Neistat when he said, like one of my first movies I just shot on a crappy $200 camera.
Yeah.
And if you watch that movie from back then, it's still very interesting. It grips you just by the story that he tells, not from the quality of the video, which is really potato quality.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
That makes
funny,
me feel a little bit better shooting on my iPhone.
Yeah, well, it really, you can get bogged down in or at least I can, in tech and making sure video quality is nice and bit rates and all that, but no one notices. Like if I started shooting in 1080p rather than 4K, no one would notice. But it's for my own satisfaction. So,
and what I often comment to like new YouTubers, I say, just add more lights to your workshop, because that's really
that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing these days. Cameras are so, like, even cheap cameras are so good that it's the lighting that is the next thing you would need to think about, really. But it's one of the hardest things to do.
For me, it's really easy. I just add more lights to the ceiling. That's all I do. I've got some mobile lights and I just shine it at it, and that's it. I don't even
think about it.
I don't have background lights. No, I'm not saying this is the right way to do it.
Yeah.
It's just
Have you guys
I can't
seen
get
those?
my head around it.
Have you guys seen those lobed, like those triple lobed lights that fold out from a normal light socket? They're like LEDs, and they take up the same amount of power as like an old style incandescent, roughly, but they put out a ton of light. I think, man,
Do you mean a corn cob light?
I guess maybe they're called corn cob lights. I don't really know. They have like three lobes.
They're as big as a banana. Those ones.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not.
Or what about a Coke can? Like a
yeah.
Because I mean, I've got one with LED strips on the inside. But did you say it had 3 prongs sticking out or something? A bit
It's
like a
got like
fan.
3 lobes. They fold out like a flower almost.
That sounds really cool.
Oh, it is. It is really cool. I bought one, and then I think I have like 6 of them now. I've got 2 in my office, and then 4 in my like workshop garage area. And they
do you have to manually open them, or do they open themselves when you turn them on?
Well,
I still don't know.
That would be awesome. But no, I just keep them. I just keep them open all the time, and you turn them on and off like a normal light. But it's
cool.
yeah. I mean, they're so bright that I was filming something the other day, and I had my like lobe lights on. We'll just call them that for lack of a better term. And then
maybe you've come up with the right term.
maybe I have, but then I go back inside my house, right, and I look at it. I'm like, oh, I've got the overhead light off. I didn't even have it on. I'd forgotten to turn it on with the other lights because they were so bright.
Yeah.
So maybe that's my favorite tool these days.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Adjustable LED fixture retrofit. Yeah, they flip out.
Flip out. That's right.
Yeah, it's like a flip phone, just a light.
Yeah, I suppose that's right. But I guess the cool thing is we were talking about LEDs earlier, but it's just like this puts out so much light, and it's the same power as like a 60-watt incandescent from back in the day. It's just just goes to show how efficient LEDs are. And I don't know. I just think they're cool, I guess, too.
Yeah. Well, I actually have an old what is it, halogen. I've got an old halogen bulb on the main light on the ceiling.
Naughty for the environment.
You say that. Let me explain. It's just a standard bulb shape. So it's a small halogen inside the classic bulb shape, and it's I think 40 watts. So it's about, say, half the electricity of a computer just being on. So I just have it on sometimes when I want a nice cozy light, because there's nothing like an incandescent bulb for coziness. Like LEDs just can't touch it, because
Yeah.
it's like that nice warmth and that warm glow, and you've got like perfect CRI and everything. So yeah, there's still a place in my heart for the old bulbs.
Fair enough.
Well,
Yeah.
you'll have to stock up with them, right? Because I don't think they make them anymore, do they? Or maybe they do.
Oh, halogen they're still making. They're not banned in Europe, but then the UK isn't Europe anymore, is it?
That's true. I don't know. I don't think that they'll be around for long. There is a small stock that I've got access to, but I use it so seldomly that it should last a long time. And if I run out, I'll probably just make my own. not halogen, obviously, but I'll try making a DIY filament bulb or something. You know, one of those classic ones, like a classic Edison light bulb with the long filament. That would be
Oh
cool.
yeah, that you wind by hand
Yeah.
to a tiny spiral.
Get an old glass, old drinking glass, turn it upside down.
Oh, a Coke bottle, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Interesting project, but potentially
I found
dangerous.
that you find a lot of old, like antique bottles, even if you just look in forests behind
In forests,
places where people live.
Strange place to find bulbs.
The Coke bottles, because people they drink them and they can stay there
right.
for 100 years.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
And they never degrade.
Yeah, I can see that. My friend has a collection of old, well, not old, they're pub glasses. So there's like here in the UK we've got like Carling and all sorts of beer brands, and they have branded glasses, and people used to leave them outside the pubs, you know, sort of like you don't know which pub it's from, but they just leave it randomly on a wall and stuff. So his cupboard's full of like random beer glasses, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I feel like that kind of leads into one of the questions we wanted to ask. You know what? I guess where do we get inspiration for our projects? Is that you guys want to talk about that now?
Yeah, definitely.
So what about you, Matt? What kind of inspiration? What inspires you? Different projects?
It's a tricky one, that. For me, there's a lot. I've sort of had a list for a long time of projects that just pop into my head. Like I'll think of something at some point, like, whoa, that would be a great idea. So I'll write it down. And it's very hard to pinpoint or think back and remember what the point of inspiration was, because sometimes it will be a chain of thought. Other times I'll see something like a product and I'll think, ooh, that's cool. Even say seeing a filament inside a classic Edison light bulb, I'll think, ooh, can I use that as a feature on the front of a PC case or something? And then sometimes I'll see what other people have done on YouTube in terms of general projects, say like epoxy tables, and think, hey, maybe I could, use that technique or something in something. So it's such a broad range of places that inspire me that I couldn't say that any particular one stands out.
No, I know what you mean. It seems like, honestly, half the time it seems like I see something on YouTube or somewhere else or whatever, and it's like, I got to build that, but then I've got 10 other projects that I'm already working on, and I don't know. Maybe the better question for me is how do you actually get things done when you have so many things you want to build? I just feel like, I don't know. Are you guys like that? You never?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I never finish my list.
I feel like some people ask, how do you find things to do? How are you inspired to things to do? But for me, it's more like, how do you
inspiration,
figure out what not to do? I don't know.
Yeah, how do you keep at something long enough to actually finish it?
I've always thought that if I had enough money, I mean, like a lot of money, and I suppose maybe Elon Musk is a little like this. I'd say, I'd try to hire a bunch of engineers and technicians, and I'd come up with ideas, and then have other people do it. Not saying he doesn't do some of it himself, but yeah, I guess he does it. I don't know. I'm not trying to judge him one way or another, but somebody like that has a whole company that it's like, okay, I got this idea for the boring company or my cars or whatever else.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really
It's
cool.
all about delegation, isn't it? In that regard. Yeah.
That's what I thought when I got the first 3D printer, and then when I built the CNC, that they would help me make stuff quicker. And that's true, but that just means I can do more projects, but I still don't have more free time, which is fine. I totally love spending time in the workshop, but there's just too much stuff to do.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to make the stuff yourself, because you think you can get more what you want.
Yeah.
I feel like if that situation was like for me, I'd be kind of like a really petty Elon Musk. I mean, it wouldn't be trying to go to Mars. It'd be more like, well, I need you to make this, spinner thing for my car.
Here's an old coffee machine. Make a plant watering system.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, okay, it'd be pretty.
That was a really impressive project. He took a Keurig coffee maker.
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah,
and they built it into a watering plant. A plant watering plant.
Yeah, no, I really. It was funny. I my wife's. I guess here's a story of inspiration. My wife's coffee maker, it wasn't working correct. I say my wife's. It was ours, but I hardly ever drink coffee. So, effectively speaking. Anyway, all that being said, I tried to fix it, and I did fix it, but then I noticed it just looked totally nasty inside after 10 years or so of work. So I'm like, you know what? We'll just buy another one. I'll put this in the garage, but I just couldn't quite bear to throw it away. And then I realized, well, yada, 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 I could put a Raspberry Pi in here, have it trigger the air pump, and water my plant every day at 11:30. So
how did that chain of thought start? Like, that's a really unique thought, is turning a coffee machine into a...
He had a spare Raspberry Pi on his desk and thought, what can I do with this?
I wish I remember where I got that idea, but I really don't even know. Sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
just a light bulb moment, perhaps.
Just a light bulb moment, and unfortunately, I can't quite remember it.
And it wasn't an easy task either, right? I mean, you must have spent hours on that thing, figuring out all the buttons. Like, he has the buttons, and they actually, you can press the, make a coffee button, and then it gives an extra squirt of water for the plant.
So cool.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, the one thing that was challenging about that the wiring up the buttons, was that you bring out the wiring harness, and for some reason, everything's grounded to the one red wire. So all the black wires are positive and stuff, but the red is the ground.
No.
Yeah, it's.
At that point, I would stop the project. It would be too confusing.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess I guess I shouldn't make jokes about whoever makes Keurigs, but maybe they use red in their society for ground. I don't know.
Maybe they're made in Australia. That would explain it.
Yes,
that would make sense. And then when the water comes out, then it circles the wrong way. So maybe the red wire compensates for that. And
yes,
yeah. And you also have 110 volt in the US.
Yeah, 110, 120. It's whatever you want to. Yeah, well, yes, we have 110, but we don't stick our, usually we don't stick the gap between the plugs is not long enough that you can stick your fingers between them.
I did that. I totally did that with an American plug. I plugged in my computer. I had an American plug, and I had my fingers between the prongs, and I got a shock.
Ooh. Now, did it hurt a lot then?
It doesn't hurt a lot. It's just really scary.
Yeah.
And I got shocked a few times. I get shocked almost every time I work with 220 volts because I don't want to take the fuse out, because then the lights would go off as well.
Right. So what voltage is it in Germany then?
240 as well.
Oh,
230.
240, right. Same as here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that because we get more efficient power supplies, more powerful DC power supplies.
Yeah.
So
The Americans are always worrying about like, this is like
Yeah.
a 16 amp breaker, and I'm like, I really don't care how much amps it is.
Yeah, I'm higher current does scare me quite a bit. You know, one time at work, I was trying to fix a machine and I got shocked by, I'm not sure if it was a 440 or 220. Anyway, it was something above normal
Oof.
wall power, and I was like, So I go to my boss. I'm like, I don't know, should I get this checked out? Yeah, I guess at that point their liability mindset comes in. So then they send me to the doctor, and I have to get an EKG, and mostly I was embarrassed.
Oh.
So
sounds painful though. Was it painful?
it was somewhat painful, but again, it was more embarrassing than painful.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, why did I tell anybody about this? But yeah, at the same point, I guess if my heart's not actually beating correctly,
Yes.
which they said,
Or to
it
get that
was,
checked out. Yeah.
gotta get it checked out.
I mean, I'm no expert, but I think it makes a big difference whether you just get shocked on one finger or if you connect it from the left hand all the way to the
I would
right
have
hand.
thought so, yeah, because the current can pass through your body then, couldn't it? If it was from one hand to the next.
Pretty sure it was
really,
with one hand.
I'm not an expert.
Yeah. So Max, we've talked about inspiration now. What about you? You I guess the biggest project you've been working on is your hydrofoil, right? So where'd that inspire you?
Oh, that inspiration was really that I wanted to make something that has all the power inside and like some buttons. I wanted like something with buttons on it, basically.
Something
I
with
want
buttons.
a little flat panel with buttons sticking out and a display and like labels, and then you can like press the button and it does something. And I always liked building boats and stuff like that. So
Nice.
yeah, that was a natural combination.
Max has been working on a hydrofoil, which is basically like a fairly small surfboard that has a big electrical engine on the bottom. So in theory, at some point he'll be surfing down around the waves, above the waves, right?
Yeah.
It's a long-term project, so
it's a long-term
2 years
project.
in the making.
How's the progress going on it?
Oh, really good. The board is ready. I just need to do the final assembly, basically, and then waterproofing and testing. So
right. So you're fairly close to a test run then?
Well, no, but
okay. Like, is it on the horizon? Can you see?
It's on the horizon.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it's most of the work is done, and the hard stuff, the challenges have been done. But I've got so many projects going on right now. Like I've got 2 new products that are on pallets in my workshop right now that I can start assembling. But before that, I need to do the renderings and the pictures, put them on the website to actually market them. That's one thing. Then I'm doing this car platform, like a giant drawer slide for a Fiat 500 car.
Right.
Oh, you told me about this.
Yeah, they're building the prototype of that now. Or at least I'm getting parts for that.
Hey,
That's one big thing. Yeah.
Tell me, Max. I guess we can. Your business, what you do for I guess living is you build car slides for caravans, RVs in the U.S. What inspired you to get into that business? I think that'd be interesting.
Oh, that was
to know.
My dad bought a caravan and he wanted some sort of storage system. And at the time, they only had shelves, so you would have to climb inside and then access the shelf, which is really not that great. It's really just a shelf. So I made a drawer slide system. And I developed my own drawer slides made out of aluminium, so they're really lightweight.
Nice.
And that's it, basically. And yeah, I laser cut the parts so they're cheap to make and easy to assemble. So the inspiration was really the need that my dad said he wants something like that. And my job, I really didn't like my job working in a company. Like I was making good money. I was an engineer, but it wasn't good enough for me. The money wasn't good enough for me that I thought, I want to spend 8 hours a day here sitting at my desk doing something. Always the same thing as well. It was a big company, so I had one job basically, and
Right.
now I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I'm doing some computer stuff, some rendering, some CAD work, dealing with suppliers, packaging stuff, driving around in a forklift downstairs.
That sounds like the best bit.
Marketing. Sometimes in summer when it's nice, I drive to the local campsite and just hand out flyers.
What, in the forklift truck? You should do it in the forklift truck.
I'm telling my girlfriend, if I get a forklift, we can go eat ice cream in town together.
Yes.
Well, if you
That's better than a
are you
convertible.
gonna? Well,
It is a convertible.
Yes.
well, yeah. You do wonder. Going through engineering school and stuff. It's like it's like it'd be so awesome to like design aircraft carriers or jets or even high performance cars. Whatever else. But then you think, well, if I actually did that, I'd probably be designing the door handle on something.
The hinge. Yeah,
The
the
hinge,
door hinge.
exactly. Yeah, so I think until you get to that point where you're the guy or a woman telling people, "Yeah, okay, make this a little bit shallower here, or a little more. We need some more, you know, we need an extra two cylinders, extra." That's a bit of a generalization, but you know what I'm saying. Until you're the person making the plans, I feel like it's probably a fairly boring job at some on some levels, even the
Oh
cool.
yeah.
Hmm.
And what I also noticed while I was working in industry, we wanted to make a little vacuum pump that would, create a vacuum to do something in like a chemical process. And they were like, yeah, we need an electrical engineer, and we need, a company that makes a prototype, and we need one guy from the engineering department to make the housing and design one and all of that. And I just said, guys, I can just do this myself. Just give me a week, some Arduinos, and I
Yeah.
actually bought some Arduinos and built the whole thing, like the prototype. And that is my style of working, but it wasn't the style of working for the company. They would have taken probably a year or two to make that,
Wow.
just
So,
because they want to follow the processes, and
Yeah.
that's just not for me.
It just shows where you can be more efficient, doesn't it? And how companies could be more efficient.
Yeah.
I think probably that's what Western manufacturing might need, is a bit more of that mindset.
I mean, I will say though, before I worked for myself, I worked in manufacturing, and even though that was probably not my first choice, once I get into it, you realize,
The sprinkler company, right? Reliable
yeah,
sprinklers.
yeah, that's right. I worked there, but yeah, I worked for a company that made bearings before that, and a company that made power meters after that. And you realize that even though you're not designing the end product, you get to design the fixtures that make the stuff. You get to design the electrical system in many cases, the mechanical system, whatever, and actually get it going. Less than a year from start to finish. And I think that's something that's maybe, it depends on the company, but if you can do it, it is a really fun job in some respects, but I think maybe that's not maybe not advertised as much as it should be, because I feel like, you go through school and you're like, well, I want to be a design engineer for this, say BMW or Ford, Chrysler, whatever. But, I think, I think maybe the reality of the situation is lost in some people until they get into it. I feel like I kind of fell into that for, not intentionally, but then I think I ended up in the right place to learn a lot of different techniques and stuff. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Matt, you didn't do any formal work, right?
No,
you did YouTube right out of school,
that's
right?
part of the problem. Yeah, it's just straight out of school. Just muddled my way through. It was my hobby during school, and then I thought, it's going quite well. I'll just continue. And
Was that difficult with your parents?
no, no, they were quite happy. Whatever I was doing, really, they could see that I was enjoying it, and the money had started coming in there, and yeah, they were just,
Well, I guess if the money started coming in, then it makes
yeah,
it easier.
it wasn't huge amounts, but they could see that I had a goal with it, so yeah, they just left me to it, really.
Nice.
I sort of didn't really.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I think Max and I's experiences working for ourselves has been slightly different, I guess. But it's, I think parents always appreciate when you're providing for yourself and stuff. But I think too, there's some maybe security in being in it with a bigger company. I don't know. Would you agree with that, Max? I guess, at least from an outside perspective.
Yeah. My parents were always self-employed, and they kind of had a dream. Oh, how nice it would be if our son would be in the company, and like in a few years' time, it would be on some board member of a big car manufacturer make the real money. But I don't think that would have ever happened. But I know somebody. He's just like a higher up manager at BMW, I think, and he works in China, and he's probably making a few millions a year.
Wow.
Just a salary
Really?
as a he's not even a board member. And I never thought that you could make that much money as an upper manager at a big company. I thought maybe 200,000 or 300,000 would be the limit that you could.
That's what I would think.
could
Maybe
strive
we're
for,
doing the wrong.
which
Maybe we're
is-
all doing the wrong thing then.
Yes.
Speaking of income, thank you to our Patreons.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We've actually got a
We've
full. Well, you go ahead, Max. You usually I
Yeah,
shout him out. But
yeah.
why don't you a special shout out for Max today, since we got a full 5.
special shout out for me, especially to Pat Regan for his $1 a month. He was a guest on our podcast last month, and our actual Patreons are Brian Moses, Old School DIY, Positive Waves, and Stephen Booker. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Pat Regan is an actual Patreon. Just
He is an actual
Clear that
Patreon,
out.
That's true.
and
Yeah.
he not only donated his time, but now he donates his money as well.
Yeah, but
So-
he kind of did it, His
Kinda
motivation wasn't really to help us, was it?
Well, I don't know. I think he was. I like Pat Regan. I don't know what. No reason to.
How about if I put my name on that list?
You can do that if you want. No, we
I thought
appreciate.
earlier. Maybe that's a marketing strategy, just to become the top Patreons for upcoming Patreon people that just started on Patreon.
We appreciate all our Patreons, especially Pat Regan, who's one of the few people I know that has a spinning head on Twitter. So still has an animated GIF head. So
And on YouTube.
and on
I'm
YouTube.
surprised nobody else has that.
I think
And that even works.
well, there was a legacy thing. Like back in the day, you could upload animated GIFs or GIFs, whatever you want to call them, to Twitter.
Okay.
But now they don't let you anymore. So Pat Regan has quite the valuable piece of whatever intellectual.
Well, valuable, but it's his own head, It's not really something you can sell. Let's say he sells the channel to CNN, they wouldn't want his head spinning around there.
Well, yeah, if it had like maybe the world spinning, like
Well, that
that's
would be good.
that would be good, but it's not. So it's just his head
Didn't
spinning.
think of that.
So
So Matt, what are you working on at the moment? What's going on in your studio?
Quite a few things. I've got a few projects on. I've just finished one, which will be hopefully uploaded tomorrow, which is an eye contact webcam system. So it is a webcam that makes it look like you are literally making eye contact with whoever you're talking to.
That sounds like the dartboard where you throw the dart and it moves to the position where the dart will land.
Simpler than that.
eyes
thankfully,
eyes up here, buddy.
Yes, yeah. So that should be interesting. I mean, it's a very simple one actually. So it's more of a craft level project. But that's good because it means that most people should be able to do it. Like it's made out of foam board, the system. So that will
That's
be
really
released
good.
tomorrow. Yeah, we'll
Can
see.
you make it
we'll
out
see.
of cardboard as well?
You could, yes.
Okay.
But foam board is better because it's more rigid and it's it's just better suited for it.
And when Matt says that it will be released tomorrow, what he means is it was released on May 26th
Oh, yeah,
3 weeks ago.
of 2020,
Right.
just in case.
Well, I get this episode done really quickly.
Well,
Right.
if you the next one, then if this
Oh.
is going live in say 3 weeks, did you say?
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
I get it done. I
Oh,
said
right,
it now.
okay.
And
Okay,
this will be
Right.
released on the 26th of May.
right.
But you
okay.
can shout out your next one too. We're happy to.
Yeah.
Happy to
Well,
let
it's a 4K projector, so it's actually true 4K. So it's a projector from the ground up for watching films and things. Really bright,
wow.
big screen on the wall. And again, it's a really simple design because it's based on layers. So it's got some Fresnel lenses to focus the light properly, and a good 4K tiny screen, and yeah, a really cool lens, which is from a medium format camera from I think 1950 or something. So
And
yeah,
are
that'll
you
be cool.
reusing an old screen for that or a new screen?
Old screen, keeping it super cheap to do. So it's an older screen, but
An older screen with 4K.
yeah.
So this should be a very easy project for, I guess, doable project for people. Is that?
It is.
Is
Yes,
that
it's
fair?
doable. Yeah, because the design is based on it being easy to adjust, and I would say that it is sort of medium difficulty. It's something that people can fairly easily do. It's the only tool I would recommend is a jigsaw, just for cutting out
Of
squares.
course.
Yeah.
Well,
So
look, I mean, medium difficulty for a true 4K projector. That sounds pretty good to me.
yeah. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. Anyway.
Nice. What
Maybe that
about
would
you?
be a good product idea, sending out kits with easy projects that people can assemble them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you get a few pieces of foam board, an old screen, some LEDs, and you can make your own 4K projector. It will be a fun weekend project.
Well,
with your kids.
this one is actually, this one's not the foam board one. It uses aluminium, so it's just slightly trickier, but still,
nice.
because of the way it's designed, it's still easy. All you need is a drill and a jigsaw, but you can get away with doing it manually. Like you don't even have to use. You could use foam board, actually. Thinking about it, I'll mention that in the video and show, because people, it's quite an easy project. So.
Now, if you want to go the extra mile, make it out of the cereal box.
I might put one on the outside just to disguise it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what are you working on?
So I guess my biggest project I'm working on, I got it's another Raspberry Pi project. I got a digital, basically like a computer-based oscilloscope. I don't know if you've seen these things, but basically they plug into a computer. You can take different measurements and whatever. Basically, I set this up with a Raspberry Pi, so everything's like a self-contained unit. It's got got a handle and everything. Because I feel like the problem with
nice.
Yeah, I feel like the problem with that
tiny handle.
Yeah, a little. What do you mean tiny?
Well, I'm imagining, because the thing is a Raspberry Pi, that it will be a miniature oscilloscope.
All right. Well, I guess I skipped a steps here. What I did was I put the oscilloscope, the Raspberry Pi, and a power supply on a piece of acrylic, like a piece of acrylic. Cut this out with a handle, so it looks like kind of like a little briefcase. And then on the back of that, I put a VESA mounting VESA mounting pattern. So basically, you can pick up the whole monitor that you have it mounted on, take your oscilloscope anywhere you want, make measurements,
nice.
and it should. I'm really pumped about this one. I've got it pretty much done. So I've just got to get it produced, and
that sounds good.
Actually did it in part for another company, so I need to make sure they release their article, and I don't step on their toes either. You know what I mean? But yeah, well, thanks. I think it should be a good project. So that's to be released. That's at some point. We'll see when, I guess. What about you, Max? What can we expect to find from you?
Well, I've got some videos in the can. I just need to edit them. And after that, well, right now I'm working in a workshop on a big vibratory tumbler. It's 1.3 meters long, so it's much bigger than the one I built before. This one vibrates, and it's made from steel and welded aluminum. So it will be an industrial tool for my workshop, because sometimes I get bad sheet metal parts, and I am sick of using sandpaper and stuff to get rid of sharp edges and to deburr them. And sometimes the surfaces are not quite as clean as they should be. So I hope with this tumbler I can get a uniform finish.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it will have a variable frequency drive and a 2.2 kilowatt motor.
Wow.
So
that would be some serious vibration.
Oh yeah. I have no idea how big to make this counterweight, so I will start with probably just a screw in the shaft.
What sort of RPM is it running at then?
I bought, like, I had a chance between 1,000 RPM and 2,500 RPM, and I chose the middle, which is 1.5.
Right.
Thousand
safe
RPM.
safe
So
zone, yeah.
I just picked that one, and with the variable frequency drive, I can change the speed. But I looked at some manufacturers and what kind of range they use, but obviously they don't tell you how fast they spin. They only tell you the kilowatts power consumption.
Right.
And I can't find a lot of information about this online. Like, not a lot of people have built this. And in my mind, like in my imagination, it's a really cool project because it will be so useful. Whenever I have some parts, I just put them in there and they come out beautiful.
Nice. Could you maybe do a mini version for there's a video to show people how to do it?
I did a mini version.
Oh, you've already done one?
But that one doesn't vibrate, it rotates. So it's
right.
like a washing machine.
Yeah, like a stone tumbler.
Yeah, exactly. And that works really well. It just takes a lot of time and it's quite small.
Right.
Even though in the video I used the word, I bought this huge barrel. And the barrel it's huge compared to the one that I had before,
Yeah,
which is inside of my kayak, but it's still just a quarter of the size of an actual barrel. So.
Well, it's all relative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm making this vibrating is because I also bought a barrel, but the barrel isn't long enough. It's just 1.2 meters long, and I need 1.3 meters long. And in a barrel, it would be difficult to fish all the parts out. But if you have a big, like a bathtub, you can just reach inside. So that's why I had to make it vibrating instead of tumbling.
Yeah.
But apparently that's faster as well.
Oh, right. So you'll have really perfect parts then when they go through that.
If it works.
Yeah.
And the medium is really expensive. The medium will be about 700 euros.
Why is it so expensive?
Yeah. I don't know.
Is it like a sand or?
No, it's plastic cones. Yeah, plastic cones with abrasives built in. So I guess the abrasive, when you injection mold it, it will abrade the tool really quick.
Right. And is that a sort of a one-time purchase, or does it have to be replaced fairly frequently?
Oh no, I think it's a one-time, at least for me.
That's okay. Yeah.
Maybe I inherit it to my kids.
Yeah. Here's some abrasive.
Me and my fiance started shooting little videos here and there for the kids.
Oh,
so
nice.
When they ask us, so how was this whole Corona thing, we can just show them this video.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
And Max, I'll just we should say congratulations on your engagement. That's really great.
Thank you.
Oh, I've not heard that.
Thank you.
Oh, congratulations. That's great news.
Thank you very much. Well, it happened 2 months ago or 3 months ago. I just happened to tell Jeremy now. Even though I said it in one of the videos and on Instagram. Yeah. Speaking of Instagram.
I don't use Instagram, but
Yeah. Oh, that's true. But you should. It's really good to waste time. You can find me at max_maker_YouTube, and DIY Perks is
what are we talking about?
Instagram.
Instagram. I don't have an Instagram.
Oh, guys, you guys have no idea about social media.
I know.
The cool people don't have Instagram. That's how far.
Yeah. That's
Instagram was cool, and then we've transcended that.
Yeah.
And
But you have
we're on
Twitter.
to the next. Yeah, I'm on to Twitter. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Donald Trump's medium of choice.
Donald Trump and many other fine people, I suppose. Yeah. Well, where can we find you on Twitter, Matt?
Just DIY Perks at DIY Perks.
That's easy enough. And I'm at Jeremy S. Cook if you want to find me there. And then Max is also what? Max_maker YT, is that right? On Twitter?
Yeah. That's it. And of course, check out our YouTube channels, especially Matt's. He really needs those clicks. We can go by without.
Yeah, we gotta give him the creativity podcast bump. Make sure
Yeah.
That extra exposure, yeah.
Get those extra 1,000 viewers.
No, we really appreciate you coming on, Matt. That's
thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for listening, and then I guess we'll talk at you later.
Excellent.
yeah, stay healthy, stay inside, wash your hands. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.
Bye.